All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another DotPro show. I'm BreakyCPK, and you're tuning in to what's going to be a fun episode here today. Let's just say today's maybe not going to be the longest show, as you may expect, of course, post-TI here, as now we're waiting for a new season ahead of us here. We're definitely kind of stretching for things to talk about while we're waiting for not only events to start, but of course, even some roster updates to take place. Now, there have been a couple of roster updates and some even rumors, you could say, that are out there, so we'll definitely have some fun discussing those. In fact, later on in the show, I am going to be joined by the great GrandGrant. He is going to be joining me. This guy's a very knowledgeable guy, of course, when it comes to talking North American and South American Dota even. He just grinds watching that scene. He's been around it forever. He knows the ins and outs, and I wanted to bring him on to kind of talk about these regions here and get his opinion, basically, on what he thinks some potential rosters may be, what he thinks of the rumors that were leaked, potentially, on Reddit within this last week, and how he sees it all kind of shaping up here. So we're going to be joined by GrandGrant to talk about that. And then later on in the show, I'm actually going to be joined once again, of course, by Zrock. We're going to be discussing some competitive Dota news as far as events that are upcoming, including some recent kind of drama, I guess you can call it. Not really, honestly. It was more of a misunderstanding, you could say. But DreamLeague had an announcement come out yesterday. Finally, we get some announcements coming out of the upcoming events. However, there was a point to their announcement where they suggested that North America and South America were going to be the same region, as well as CIS and Europe. When back a couple of months ago, when we first heard about this new competitive Valve system, that there had to be individual qualifiers for each of those regions individually, South America and CIS specifically. So as of today, they've actually changed that. They've made a new format. Again, we'll talk about that. We'll kind of update you there. But it is cool to definitely see some now information as far as what we can expect for this upcoming season. A little bit of a format, at least for the DreamLeague specifically. What's going to be $1 million major. Going to be great. Again, going to be joined by Zrock to talk about that, as well as a patch that came out recently, 7.06F. Not a massive patch, not a lot to talk about there, but we'll kind of go over it and give our takes on that. But of course, before we start with that, I'd like to do a segment here, what I like to call the good, the bad, and the ugly. So as far as the good is concerned, I figured we kind of stick with the roster shuffle situation. Now, obviously, we're in that time where that's going to be the main talking points, you'd figure. And frankly, I kind of thought we were going to maybe have a little bit more to talk about within this week's show. I almost kind of expected things were going to move a little bit quicker, but we haven't really had any announcements. I'm recording this later on Thursday night, so by the time you hear this, whether it's Friday, potentially some more will come out. I mean, that's possible, but as of this recording, we haven't had a lot of news. Now, as far as some good roster changes / non-roster changes that have taken place, I want to focus on those first. TNC officially announced that they are not changing any bit of their roster. Now, as much as I like to see these roster changes, if anything, it gives us content to, of course, talk about on the podcast show here. And it's exciting, in a lot of ways. I am glad that there are some teams, in this case, TNC, and of course, Virtus Pro, as we mentioned last week, they're announcing that they're sticking together as 5. And TNC specifically stands out to me. If you've been listening to any of these podcasts going into TI7, you would know I do have a little bit of fanboyism of TNC in me. I don't know what it is. I've had the chance to cast them a little bit, I guess. I cast them in the Southeast Asian qualifiers when I was cast for the TI7 regional qualifiers there. But I've always just kind of been a fan of this team as a whole. Raven and Cuckoo, especially, their core players, are just so good to watch. And again, we looked at that with our fantasy draft that we did, and even just looking at their stats, since I was looking at a lot of them because of the fantasy that we did. They were some of the better cores on any team throughout TI7 when it came to, you look at the stat line as far as their kill to death ratio, as far as their overall net worth, as far as their GPM, etc. So I respect them for that, but then I also really respect them and respect 1437 specifically when it comes to not only being a support player, but when it comes to him as a person and being a coach for the team. Obviously, I had him on the show a couple of months ago, going into TI7, and had the chance to talk with him about what it's like now. being a part of TNC. Formerly, he was, of course, a part of Cloud9, or excuse me, Team NP, before that whole roster change happened earlier in the year. And one of the things that really stood out to me that he stressed in the interview was that it was a shock to him with the NP situation, mainly because he thought that they were all on the same page, that you're going to have ups and downs as a team, right? It's going to be a roller coaster. You can't expect to form a team and everything to just mesh together and just work perfectly over the years. Like, that's just not realistically going to happen. That kind of stuck with me, and you could tell that the way he was saying it, how he spoke of TNC as a team, he felt like he found a new home, that he wasn't sure if he was going to be playing competitive throughout the rest of the year, let alone going to TI7. But then he ended up getting in touch with TNC, and then obviously it took place where he joined the team. He got along right away, and clearly this was a environment, even you could say, of that kind of fit that mentality. And so when I saw this news come out that even despite their somewhat early exit, but again, not really, because when you really look at it, their 2 losses in the main event, definitely nothing to be disappointed by. In fact, let me pull it up real quick to clarify. Yeah, so they lost to LFY in the first round. We're talking about a team that only dropped, 5 games between the group stages and the main event as a whole. So yeah, you can't be disappointed by that. And then they got knocked out by OG. So the bracket just really fell unfortunate for them. I really think overall they played very well, though, and they definitely have a lot to have been happy about. So I'm glad they're not overreacting. I'm glad they're sticking to it. Again, very similar to Virtus Pro. I'm not as surprised by Virtus Pro by any means, especially with them signing those contracts. But they also made the statement that they are sticking together as the same 5. Again, really outside of those couple of teams, though, we're seeing a lot of roster shuffling going on. Like I said, I am glad that we are, because it is kind of fun to kind of sit back and watch to see how it all plays out. But as far as the good is concerned, I am glad to see TNC sticking together as a team. Now, as far as the bad side of things go, when it comes to staying along the lines of the roster changes, take this how you will when it comes to bad. Just because it's under the bad segment doesn't necessarily mean I think it's an overall negative. However, it is an unfortunate departure in some cases. One team to focus on is Alliance here. Now, as far as Alliance is concerned, so Hanskin, Limp, and Jonathan Fan were officially announced to be cut from the team, basically. This happened on August 18th, so a little less than a week ago. They were announced as cut from the team. So, as far as Alliance is concerned now, their roster as it stands is currently Era and Pablo. So they decided to keep Era and Pablo and cut those 3 players. Now, so starting with Jonas Van Hanskin and Limp, frankly, I'm not too surprised. This was one of those teams that I feel like throughout the whole year was always seen as a disappointment in a lot of people's eyes. Personally, for me, even a little bit too. I'm not going to lie. This is obvious. These are players that, of course, I know very well coming from the Han scene. I've expected big things from when they came into the Dota 2 scene, and they've definitely had their share of success, no doubt, and not to take away from that. But when you sign up to play for an organization such as Alliance, you're signing up to play for one of the most recognized and successful brands that the game has ever seen. So if you're not winning big events, let alone qualifying for things like TI or even a major, it's going to be seen as a disappointment. It's a very tough scene right now, so I do value that we've talked about that many times before. I do feel like the scene is in a spot right now where you can't expect to put this all-star roster together or, good players together and just be like, oh, because we're Alliance and, we have all good players that we're just going to go with long distance. But I could see where it was seen as disappointing for them in terms of not qualifying for TI, not qualifying for majors, and really, again, not having a whole lot of success throughout the year ultimately. So, again, I'm not surprised to see this. It still is unfortunate. I have complete faith that all 3 of these players will find a new home. I am very curious if they stick together with the 3, because if I'm not mistaken, these 3 players also played under the tag of NIP altogether, and I would not be surprised if that is the case, again, moving forward. I'm actually trying to confirm 100% on that. Yeah, Jonas Van Limponskin, it was Seal Kid and Era. That's right, was their 5-man roster back in 2015. So, again, these three have been playing together. Obviously, they even come from playing together in Heroes and Newer, so again, no surprise there. But whether or not they stick together or whether they maybe find their own homes, that'll be fun to see. There's a lot of people have brought up Limp getting back with Chessie. Chessie has announced that he's looking forward on coming back to competing at a competitive level once again. So that would also be a cool storyline. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. As far as the other side of the bad goes, I wanted to talk about, again, specifically staying with the Lions here, the situation with who the new players are going to be. Now we don't know, but I know they're having people suggesting that Loda is once again going to come back. And even the potential that Ake, as well as possibly even EGM. Obviously, we saw that team in what was Crescendo take place in the qualifiers, attempting to qualify for the for TI7 there. Okay, coming up short and coming up pretty damn short. I mean, or they frankly didn't do too well. So, but where I'm getting at with all of this is Lotus specifically, and even Ake, frankly, when you're dealing with players that own this business, is what it really is. The brand is when they own their share, when the brand of Alliance is important for them in terms of making them money and being successful is important for them. I would be hesitant as a player wanting to play with such teammates, knowing that's the case. And again, obviously, I am not sitting here suggesting that they're bad players or anything like that. The idea, though, that their 100% focus is not necessarily going to be on grinding Dota 2 and winning as much as possible. It's a mix of, they both have had that great success in the past, of course, being TI champions, but little less of that and more, again, on the side of they're having to spend their time and the resources on the business side of it. The Alliance is a lot more than just a Dota 2's team. I believe they have some people in the fighting game scene, the Smash community. I believe they have a Hearthstone team, if I'm not mistaken, amongst other games out there. And that takes up time. That takes up resources. That takes up, your again, your time. You get what I'm saying, basically. So if you're not able to, invest all of that power into focusing on winning these big time events, I would be hesitant to want to play with those players. This is speculation. I don't know if this is going to be the case necessarily. Again, as of now, it's just Era and Pablo. We do not have any more information. Maybe once we get said information, we could look more into that. But that's just something I wanted to bring up concerning that talk right there. So, and then there's one other team actually I wanted to mention as well, as far as the bad goes, and that's the Cloud9 situation. Cloud9 announced, yesterday even, that they removed their Dota team, and they're no longer, affiliated with that team. So what that means for Team NP is, again, we've already heard rumors that Team NP in general, maybe splitting up to an extent, or not necessarily all the players going to be sticking together, whatever it may be. But I get why organizations do this. And again, that's why I said I definitely was not surprised when Cloud9 picked up Team NP going into TI7, because of the viewership, because of the marketing potential for them. It still is unfortunate whenever such a prestigious esport organization steps in for one event and then basically says, all right, we're done, wash our hands of this. We got what we wanted out of it. Now let's, move on. Maybe this was an agreement between the players. I'm not even 100% sure on that, but we've seen this before with some of these bigger organizations. It would be nice to have a respected esport organization like Cloud9 consistently staying in the scene. But obviously this decision was made and, have to accept it for now. But, wanted to touch on that. And then, as far as the ugly is concerned, this was interesting. So another kind of roster change taking place is with Team Infamous. And this is something, perhaps we'll talk more about with GrandGrant when I have him on later on the show. But Infamous, there was an announcement that Tomato was departing from the team. And then there was an announcement that he kind of wasn't. And then... and then there was an announcement that, again, Tomato clarifying that he actually was leaving the team. And then this quote-unquote drama alert came out with a statement from King Tekka on the team. And, I want to just go ahead and read it here to give an idea in case you haven't seen it. So basically, this is King Tekka suggesting, I quote, "Given that everyone thinks the worst of me and keeps asking questions about our separation, let me tell you the main reason was Tomato. He went out of his way to say that he was the only one getting paid, that I'm a rager, and that I hated practicing scrims. In reality, a lot of the raging issues were due to his attitude. When anything went wrong in a game, he would stay silent and several other dumb things. He skipped the part where my reactions were due to his father, because after qualifying for TI, he wanted to get his son out of the team because of organization issues. I guess it refers to Infamous, and we wasted quite a lot of time because we couldn't play. He demanded Infamous to pay for his plane ticket or wouldn't allow Tomato to travel at all. Ever since I found out about this, I wanted to stop playing with him altogether, nor have to deal with his father because he took advantage of the situation by threatening to pull his son out of a team and gain benefits he didn't deserve." End quote. That was a translation, to be fair, that was done on a Reddit post here. So, but you hear that and it's just like, whoa, what? So again, long story short, the TLDR, I guess you could suggest, is that Tomato and King Tekka specifically were not getting along. And according to this, even the father of Tomato, who has been pretty vocal apparently on social media himself, was causing issues within the team concerning things like this, requesting that he gets paid, or his plane ticket gets paid to go to TI, etc. It really is unfortunate, Now Tomato, I believe he's 16 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So the idea that his father would want to be somewhat involved throughout all of this isn't necessarily that shocking to me. Again, without knowing the 100% full story of both sides. But yeah, I'm confirming here he's only 16 years old. But yeah, the idea that a parent wants to be involved in some sense, it's not that crazy, right? But whether or not they should feel obligated to pay for said parent to actually travel along with them to go to said event, I could see where that would be, a little frustrating in terms of whether you should feel obligated to do it or not. But it is also just unfortunate whenever you hear this drama after the fact, right? Whenever you hear something like this after such a huge event such as TI7 took place, that apparently Infamous really wasn't playing up to their fullest potential, probably because of this internal drama that took place. But Zrock has mentioned several times on our podcast show here, especially, that the South America scene, is known for issues like this when it comes to rosters in general with the South American scene and the consistency of them. They have their issues, and this is just another example of that, even with one of the more successful ones that we've ever seen from the region, of course, going to TI7 here. So, whether or not we'll find out more from this, ultimately, who knows? But all I can say is that ultimately, Tomato is officially announced that he is out of the team. He did make that very clear, and he is going to be looking for a new team. Will he end up with another South American team, or will he end up on a North America, even European team? I would not be surprised if that's the case. Again, something else we could definitely ask GrandGrant about later on in the podcast here. But even though we haven't had a lot of official, really big roster changes coming out just yet, we still have plenty to talk about when it comes to the roster shuffle here, as you can see. All right, guys, sit tight. We're going to be joined by GrandGrant coming up next. Definitely don't want to miss that. And then Zrock later on in the show. Sit tight, guys. We'll be right back. All right, guys, so I am now going to be joined by GrandGrant, as mentioned right here. GrandGrant, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's going great, you know, just another night enjoying some NA Dota, talking with another fellow NA Dota lover, Breaky.
Of course. Always fun to watch some NA Dota, and yeah, you've been casting a lot of the high-level pub games of NA Dota recently here. It seems like you've been having a good time with that, and quite success, actually. A lot of people tuning in.
Yeah, it's pretty good, you know. EG's on vacation, though. I don't know if that's good or bad for the pubs. Like, it's not as good to watch, but it's good to learn about new people, you know, because if Sumail's in it, you know he's going mid. If he's not, though, you know, you can learn a lot about upcoming players.
Well, that's kind of why I wanted to have you on, especially because you've obviously been around the scene forever. You know a lot of the ins and outs. You watch a lot in general, and I wanted to bring you on to talk about the whole roster shuffle in general, mainly focusing on the North American, South American region, though. Now, we've had some rumors that have coming out as far as some of the teams, and I wanted to get your take on that, basically. First off, so what I'm talking about here, there was apparently a guy by the name of LGD Amefan that gave 5 different rosters of 5 different teams. And apparently he's done it in the past and has been right. So when you saw this, I mean, what did you think about it?
When I saw some, I was like, I knew, you know, I don't want to say which ones, but I knew a couple of those rosters were like correct. And I'm like, well, if those ones are correct, I wonder if those other ones are also going to be correct. I think some of the ones like DC is confirmed. I don't know if they're actually, that one's like actually confirmed though, by me now, I guess. I don't know. I think like some of the DC members already said it though. And I think that team's going to be interesting. But when I actually saw that post, I'm like, who is this guy? He deletes his post too though. That's the problem, right? He'll respond to somebody and then delete it like 10 minutes later, which is weird. He's only kept up 3 of his posts, but he's made like 30 in the past couple days.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to make about that, but CCNC said it's not him. I don't think it is, because why would he leak his own team? And it's not me. I would never use an alt account. I'm always about the, you know, just doing, you know, just if you're going to do some, just do it. So it's obviously somebody. I don't know if it's actually a player. I actually have no clue. Legitimately, I have no clue who it is.
All right. So whether or not it's, you know, it's true, it sounds like there's a good chance that all these even potentially could be true. Yeah. So kind of running through the teams here, we got quote unquote PPD's team. What is it? Pycat, CCNC, Zai, Misery, and PPD coming back. Looking at that roster, what do you think?
I think it's one of those teams that, I mean, it's got old players like Pycat and Misery, but I think they go back and quote themselves. They've never had success on the same team together, even though they love playing with each other, which obviously that's not a good sign. But PPD and Zai, right? I mean, we both saw them in Han. They were amazing teammates, and they like being on team, right? They started in Dota 2 on Stay Free, so I think those two together are going to be amazing. I think Misery I mean, you have a lot of experience on that team, just in general, like 3 old captains, and then if the rumor is true, CCNC, I mean, a 9K mid player, that'll be good to have a lot of those older people there for him to maybe lead him in the right way, because, you know, he's getting a little bit of hate. Maybe undeserved, maybe not. I mean, I'm not one to judge. I've been hated on before, so I know the feeling. You just gotta, you know, work on getting better, and it seems like CCNC is. So, the thing is, will that team actually work out? They have a lot of these leaders who maybe aren't the highest individually skilled, right? Like Peter's really good, but even he'll tell you, like, he's nowhere near Sumail's level, like just of mechanically skilled. And maybe Misery, like playing on the 4 and 5, could probably be about the same. And then Pycat on carry. Last time we saw him was on Navi. Do we really think maybe he is a tier 1 player? He's a good friend of mine, but are they actually all tier 1 at their own roles? Is what I've been like trying to think of.
That's a really good point, actually. And well, for me personally with this team, Also, Zai, kind of going back to his offlane roots, I like as well. Now, obviously, his experience, and he's a very skilled player, but that is definitely a good point that you make as far as the others. I mean, CCNC, he just doesn't have the experience. I do think he is a great player, but that will be interesting to see how that kind of comes together if this team really sticks. I mean, what are your thoughts on PPD? Because I know you're obviously good buddies with him. I consider him a friend as well. Do you really think he's all in? Like, he's back?
I think so. I think he's ready to go. He won TI5, right? And then TI6, he was there. He got third place. Like, he's still owned. And then, like, between TI6 and TI7, right? Like, he played on Wanted with maybe Chassis. Like, he was seeing, like, he's like, oh, this isn't for real. But, I mean, he had a real team. Like, they were good players. And then he finally casted it. He's probably watching this event, like, which I wouldn't say was the highest skilled TI we've seen, honestly. And he's probably like, I could do better than this. I could do that. I think he's all in. I think he's ready to go. And by far, like, when I think of the best minds in Dota 2, it just goes back. It's like PPD, Kuroki, Puppy. Those three will always be on top for me. So I think it'll be good if he comes back for sure.
Yeah, CCNC is definitely kind of that wild card for me, though, especially because. I mean, I want your honest opinion, man. Do you think that he deserves the hate that he gets in some ways, or is it really unjustified?
Oh, absolutely. Just like I said with myself, I definitely deserved a lot of the hate I got. I think the whole raging thing, everyone on NA Dota does it, but not everyone gets thousands of viewers like CCNC does on his stream, so not everyone's going to do that. And I mean, eventually, you got to get past it, but it's tough. Once Reddit gets a red target on you, you're done. Like a player like Ritsu as well, one of the highest skilled like carry players in NA, but he's so hated because of what he did in the past. It's just hard to wipe off. You just got to keep trying harder and stop abandoning games and flaming, which is tough. Don't get me wrong, it is tough. Well, not for me because I just don't play Dota, but I assume for someone like him, when he's a 9K player and a 5K takes your middle, I'm with Blitz. Like, I mean, that's just abandon the game. I'm not going to get mad. Maybe other people will, but yeah, I mean, you deserve your lane if it's that bad, but whatever.
That's kind of a nice transition there. You bring up Ritsu especially. Infamous has kind of been an interesting team. Obviously, they're coming off just from TI7, but as of earlier in the week here, we actually had some interesting, I guess you could call it drama that came out. Tomato left the team, but then maybe wasn't leaving the team, and then eventually made a point that, yes, he is leaving the team. And then King Tekka, I guess, had something to say on the whole situation in terms of they weren't getting along. His dad was interfering even. I mean, what do you know about that whole situation? What do you think about it?
Well, we all know Tomato's 16, so I mean, his dad being involved, even overly involved, I mean, that's not the worst thing. He's super young. You don't want him to get. I mean, he was the best player on that team. You don't want him to get taken advantage of. He deserves more. He deserves more. From what I heard after TI said, where were we at 7? Yeah. He was off the team. He was never back on. I don't think. I think that was just. I think Tomato misworded that he's like, I didn't get kicked. He just said that. He just left the entire time. So I think that was that. And then King Tech obviously got mad, very emotional player. Maybe not the most stable, but yeah. And that infamous roster, I can confirm, isn't correct.
Okay.
That it is not going to be the 4 South Americans in Ritsu. So okay. I'm not sure. And we saw the new thing, right? You saw, what was that? Infamous posted on their Facebook. It was like a chair of Infamous. And it showed like 5 different flags. I'm actually not sure what's going on with that. That seemed...
I did not see that, actually.
Okay, I don't know where to find it, but it was weird. It showed a Canadian flag, I think a Brazilian flag, and then like a Filipino flag. And I was like, I have no clue what's going on. The only Filipino I could see join that team would be Jo, which I don't think he would. I don't know if it was a troll, but you'd have to look it up. It was literally, they posted on their own Facebook, and it showed 5 different flags on the back of a chair with Infamous under it.
No, I'm looking at it right here.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a troll, but that seems... How are you going to have those 5 countries come together? I'm not saying it's not possible. It just seems very odd. Very odd 5 countries playing in South America.
Well, that's I think the biggest thing, especially like outside nationalities. Like we've seen a lot more and more of that going to different regions to compete, but outside nationalities coming to South America specifically, has that really happened? I don't know if that has.
No, I think Demon thought about doing it before TI6, I believe, and it never happened. The thing is, people are saying, oh, it's a free slot in South America, but do you really want to, like, I don't want to get flamed. I don't know if you ever knew about PPD, Flame South American, so like the whole meet me in Carnival, I'll beat you up, and I have like 300 girlfriends, but no one really wants to go and live in South America, maybe for even, what, 6 months? Even if it's a free slot, like, you're giving up a lot to go live somewhere that maybe isn't the safest place, maybe is not all that. Like, going to live in Southeast Asia in a team house, that's great. That's different than living in a team house in South America. It just seems like a lot to commit, and I mean, all the South American players are pretty young and, like, immature. Like, you get in one fight with them, you don't want to stay in that house. It just seems really rough.
Yeah, Zrock has actually talked about that quite a bit, how South America does seem to have some issues when it comes to, obviously, the rosters and the players kind of going from one team house to the next team house, and it just seems to happen quite often. So I guess this shouldn't be surprising with the infamous situation.
Yeah. The only thing I'm still sad about, I wish those, I don't think those banned players will ever get unbanned, but those are like 4 of the best players in South America. But I mean, I'm sure that's for a different time to talk about, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I've watched a couple of games of Smash actually on that
really
topic.
Good. Yeah.
That dude is good, man. He is impressive to watch.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what you get. I mean, they didn't know the consequences, obviously, but I mean, it happens.
Okay, so there's infamous right there. So as you say, though, you can confirm that that's not actually.
That is not. Those 5 players are definitely not there, and I don't know what the 5 flag thing means. Even I'm confused. I think that's a troll, honestly, from my personal opinion. I really think that's like a troll or something.
There's been a lot of that going on.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, because there's not a date, right? There's no date. Like, after last TI, it's like, here's the date. So even 2 days before, people are like, oh, but here's roster. Here, people are just clowning around. Maybe they want to get I don't know why teams aren't announcing. Maybe contract signings is probably my best guess.
Yeah.
But you'd think even by now that mostly done. Like, it seems like the teams are made now, right? Like a week ago, oh, maybe you have 5 people and they're ready. But like with Secret, I'm pretty sure I heard Ace was not supposed to be on that team, but he got stolen from a different team, and now he's on Secret. I'm pretty sure that's confirmed. I know that's not North America, but he got stolen from a North American team is why I bring it up. So
okay. Wait, Ace.
Which is weird. Yeah, Ace from Danish Bears.
Oh, yeah.
I believe he was going to come play on an NA team, and then apparently Secret got an offer, and it was just, I mean, you're not going to turn down a Secret offer. That's just a good move by him, honestly.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so back to NA, though, here. We got DC as another team that was announced here. We got Mason, Abed, MSS, Bulba, and Moomeander as this new roster. So what that means, Dubu and
Forev are off, and I've heard, they're probably going to go make their own team, which is smart.
Okay. And you think they're going to go back with the Koreans there?
Yeah, I think more than likely, right? Where else would they go at this point? Like, they tried out NA, maybe it didn't work, and I mean, just going over there. But the DC roster, I've heard, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Moomeander playing 5 and captaining first time, so I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Like, I really think they're going to struggle early. I mean, right? Like, super growing pains, but they seem, I mean, Mason and MSS are 2 of the best players in NA, especially at their roles. And I think as long as they just get the captaining down, drafting down, and they're going to be a super strong team, but I think they're going to be really bad in the beginning.
When I hear you say Moomeander captaining a team, I can't imagine that because of where I come from with him, right? But
yeah, both
I know
of
he
us,
has matured
right?
a lot over time.
No, exactly. Like, me and you, like, people, like, see Moon now, they're like, man, he's been on a lot of teams, like, really good teams and all that, but they don't remember. And, I mean, we see him in Han, he's, like, just on his stream flaming people, doing crazy stuff, but, I mean, it's been a while. It's still hard for me, but, I mean, it either works out or it doesn't there, if that is true, which I think it is, but it's just weird, right? A completely new captain, a completely new role, I think, right? If you've been seeing him in pubs, he's only been playing 5, so I think that kind of goes to say that probably is true. Oh, I got the hiccup, sorry.
Yeah. Also as a 5 position. That'll be interesting.
Yep, and I'm glad Abed's staying. I think it's good Abed's staying. I'm sure he probably got offers elsewhere, but I'm sure Tom, the owner of DC, is like, we're keeping Abed. I don't care, add another 0 at the end of his paycheck. We're keeping Abed. He's that good, and rightfully so.
He's their star, no doubt. He's their prodigy. And that kind of, going back to Tomato, I mean, Tomato's kind of one of the, he's a similar, where he's a very young guy and quite of a prodigy of sorts in that mid role. Like, do you see him possibly ending up on an NA team?
I hope, but from what I've heard, he's not on a team currently. He's had maybe an offer or so, or some random stuff, but he's not on a team, and I think that's a big loss for some people, for just teams in general. But, I mean, you look at it, right? Like, CCNC and Tomato are probably pretty close in skill, and Peter worked with CCNC. You're probably going to want to stick around with him. And then Abed, I think Abed's just, I mean, you're not going to get rid of him. 10K player, really good. And then Sumail, obviously, Tomato's not going to replace him. NA just has really strong middle lanes, which is really surprising. Like, Tomato's not that needed here.
That is odd to say, but yeah, that is true. Well, not nothing against CCNC, but I kind of wonder, the whole PPD team, like, would they rather have Tomato? Like, would this news come out, like, after the fact?
Probably not. I think since Peter got to spend time with CCNC, and I think CCNC, I mean, he is, up 9K and above, and Tomato's never been there. I've actually heard, I swear I heard a rumor that a few teams didn't want Tomato because he wasn't 9K in the mid-roll. Like, actually, I heard this was legit, and which is kind of laughable, the whole MMR is just a number, but I mean, the mid-roll, obviously you can solo carry games a lot easier, but I don't know how big of a deal that is, but it's something.
Yeah. EG, that's obviously the big one. That's drawing a lot of attention, and you kind of see, obviously, with the PPD's 2 teams, Zai possibly going there, so that, of course, means needing to find a replacement for him. You got Arteezy, Sumail, Universe, Crit, and Fear making the comeback. This is actually happening? I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I think it would be super sick if it did, which it would be interesting, right? If that did happen, you would assume SVG is the other coach, wants to play again. I think the biggest thing is they'd just be losing a coach because, I mean, Fear can't coach, and then if SVG wants to play again, you're losing like 2 of the best coaches in the game, but you're gaining an extremely strong player. But that puts Fear in either the 4 or 5 role, right? Which, obviously, he can play. I mean, he's Fear, probably one of the best Dota 1, Dota 2 players of all time. It's going to be interesting. Now it's interesting. It's obviously one of the strongest lineups, but it's just if Fear can adapt to that role, and as long as his wrist and arm holds up.
Well, Zrock especially had this really interesting theory on EG of EG was going to start from scratch almost in a lot of ways. And I could have seen that happening too, where in his mind, he thought they might have tried to build around Universe. I thought it would have been Sumail if they were going to do that, where like they would drop all the other players. Would that seem ridiculous to you?
That seems pretty ridiculous. Like the whole like them being friends and all that is not a rumor. Even Zai, I'm sure even after, if he does leave, I mean, he's still good friends with everyone. Like that team is actually like the closest thing to brothers I've seen, even more than OG, right? Like they just seem they're just all good friends. So I couldn't see him doing that. If they did rebuild, it'd probably be around Sumail, honestly, but it'd probably be Sumail and Universe. I mean, those two are just amazingly good at their thing, and they're both like the 2 calmest players. They can play with anyone, which is crazy.
So one team that wasn't on this list, and maybe not as many people are caring about, but I know you and I definitely do, and former Han people would, of course. Complexity. I am kind of trying to wrap my head around where they may end up. Obviously, you got the cores of Moose, Swindle, and Z-Freak right now. I figure that's going to stay.
I think earlier Melon said it's pretty obvious who it's going to be. And I mean, I can make my guesses that it's more than likely going to be, I think, Chessie, who's technically on their team. He's like a streamer for him.
Yeah.
And then the other one probably going to be Limp because, I mean, he fills the role they need. And that comes back. It's Han again. I think that makes him a pretty well-rounded team, but I think they've tried this whole having 2 Swedes on their team before and it not working out too well, but It's a new season, and I think this is the best time for them to do something like this because, right, all the teams are going to be pretty fresh. Like, this is your best time. I mean, there's qualifiers coming up, I think, in like a week or two. And as long as you're hot for like even just 2 or 3 weeks, you could qualify at almost 3 events. So I think this is a good time to try out some people, maybe older people again. And if that is their lineup with Chessie and Limp, I think it's actually to be reasonably strong. They're going to be one of the quickest teams to come online, if that makes sense. Like, I think they'll come online quicker than DC if that lineup's true.
See, that was one of the first things that popped in my head, too, when especially I heard Chessie wanted to come back, and of course Limp being dropped from Alliance. I was like, oh, well, Chessie and Limp can then join Complexity. That can make a lot of sense. But then when you kind of look at the positions, I mean, because Chessie's really has to play the 1, right?
Yeah. I think
so you'd have him at 1. Moo would probably go back to the off lane. That means Swindle back to even the 5 support.
Yep, and then Limp middle. I think that's probably what they want to do, right? Because it's easier to be a shot caller from the 5 role, probably, and I think that makes the most sense. And I mean, you're supporting with your brother, who you've obviously played the most with. I think that probably makes the most sense. Like, what supports are there? If this isn't true, Cole's probably looking for a support, and I mean, there's not much.
There really isn't, yeah.
Like, there's some people, I mean, he even played with, like, Bleak is, like, the only real free agent I can see. And I don't think, like, him and Swindle talk at all, so I couldn't even see that happening.
What I was going with that, too, is I've interviewed Swindle when he made the change earlier in this last season and picked up a couple of the players there where he went to offlane. He said he really loves the idea of playing offlane, and, like, he feels like he's very comfortable there. He's even more comfortable there than he was in the 5 position. So that's where I was trying to wrap my head around. It's like, would the Chessie Limp situation really work then? But I mean, for the sacrifice of the team for the ultimate success, of course, he's a guy that would gladly do that, and I'm sure go back to the 5 if that's what it means. So that would be fun to see them back though together.
Yeah, it would. I just love seeing like old teams. You like remember people playing together, and I mean, sometimes it's like, oh, they're going back because that's all they have. Like, that's all they can do. Sure. But I think this actually is a reasonably strong roster if it is them.
All right. Well, anything else from NA or South America you think it's worth pointing out with the roster stuff currently?
I think the biggest thing is, I mean, what happened to the 3rd place team, Team Freedom?
That's true.
I've heard stuff that I believe Stan King, Snake King, and Flea are sticking together. Is what I've heard, and I think that's a very smart thing. We heard who said it? Dakota's like, I think said Stan King is going to be the next OG Fly. And while I kind of disagree with that, I see where he's going with it, and that they're both kind of quiet guys who captain and play their role extremely well. And I think Stan King's one of the most like underrated people in, I wouldn't say overall Dota, but somewhere. I mean, he's a captain and he's a support player, and that's exactly what NA needs. Like, who are the captains you think of when you think of NA? You think of like Peter and Swindle, right? Those are like the 2 big ones. Like, Stan King's, like, I've put him up there now in the past couple months. Like, he's one of those guys, and I think he'll be around for a long time. But what those 3 need then, obviously, is you have your 4 and 5 role, and then your 3 and Snake King. And there's plenty of mids, right? And then plenty of carries.
Tomato can go back to Freedom.
Yeah, exactly. Or someone like 747, because, I mean, he started on that, what was that team called before? Oh, FDL. Like, I mean, Stan King and 747 are good friends, so I could see that happening. And then the 1 role, I mean, there's so many 1 players, just who knows.
Pick up BSJ.
Yep, hey, BSJ. I think, I don't want to talk about, like, the after party, but I think he said he's just making a team of his own. So I don't think that's true, but I heard he's making his own team, and, I actually don't have more than that, but I believe he has his team. I'm just not sure who's on it. Which will be interesting. I think BSJ is a very polarizing person, because I think he is a very good player, but he's polarizing in the way of bad and good. Like, some people really like him, and some people would never want to play with him.
Yeah. Reminds me of Swindlemones.
Yep, exactly. I think the only other one is SG. I think the only thing they've been proven is that C4T is gone, their captain in 5. So I wonder where they go, the Brazilian squad, with that. I actually have no clue about that. I could ask around, but that one is, who do you get? Like, I mean, there's plenty of Brazilian players, but you just lost your captain. Like, who wants to captain a team?
Yeah.
It always comes back to that.
Well, actually, real quickly too, with you again watching a lot of these pub games, is there a player that maybe hasn't really broken out yet in the competitive scene that comes to mind that you'd be like, this player's to look up for?
I think the middle player, Bryle, or whatever his name is, I heard a few teams tossed his name around, but he never got picked up, and he's the mid laner. I mean, he's super good. I believe he was like 8.5k, but I mean, he's a mid laner, and you need to be that high when you do it, but I think he will definitely, if he gets on a tier 2 team even, we could definitely see him making a good case. And then, I mean, really, just him. There's not many supports. Like, I used to be big on the Boris train when he played with Peter on Wanted even before that, but I haven't seen much of him. But I heard some like that. He could be joining a team with... Yeah, that's about... that's really... Yeah, I would just say maybe HFN from Brazil, but I mean, we've seen him play on teams before, but I think he's still very underutilized in just gaming in general, so...
Best handy mage in South America.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's probably like top 5 in NASA behind like, Ritsu and Arteezy and Mason. He's really good. I think the only other one I'm thinking about is Team Wheel as well. Sorry, I don't mean to keep like dragging this out, but Team Wheel, they technically had a winning record against Complexity and the TI qualifiers, but of course they lost the one that mattered, and I believe they might be staying together, which is good. I mean, you grow. And that guy, if they're not staying together, I guess I'll add him, their 4-player Mad, the Chinese-American guy. That guy is really, really good. And even if his Wheel's sticking around, I think he deserves a shot on like maybe even a higher tier team. He is really good. And he used to be a meme because I don't know if you were around in Dota during, I think it was TI6 when the invites came out for regionals and NA, SA, they were together. They had 7 invites and one of them was a team called Drinking Boys. There was just all Chinese American teams, and like people just made fun, like who are these guys and all that. And then, I mean, they literally just got made fun of. And I mean, Mad's the only one who really made it out of there alive, and he is super good. So I definitely want to see him.
All right, that'll be fun to see again how it all develops here. We again, this is all just to very much
hypothetical.
Clarify. Hypothetical, yeah. This is all quote-unquote leaked information. We're kind of just working off of what we have here to present. So none of this is 100%, but it's fun to think about it and talk about it at the same time. So, Grant, really do appreciate it, man. Thanks for joining me here and talking some NA South America Dotes. Love to have you on again, man. Okay, so joined by Zrock now once again, of course, and we figured we'd talk about some other things that happened this week. Again, not a whole lot. We've already talked about the roster situation and speculations with Grant there, but I want to bring Zrock on now to talk about really the tournament structure moving forward. And of course, we mentioned a bit about it back when it came out a couple of months ago, but we finally are starting to see some actual information, kinda, as far as an event that was announced this week, being DreamHack. So, first off, Zrock, how's it going?
None too shabby, none too shabby.
All right.
Another day.
Well, another day at the office here.
Something like that.
Have you got the chance to play much Dota 2 post-TI?
You know, I'm not gonna lie, I fiended some Path of Exile right before TI. The new league came out, big expansion, so when I got back, that's pretty much been all I've been doing. Starting to tail off, though. Played a little Dota this morning.
Yeah, I've actually found myself, for those that have been watching my stream by chance, I've been starting the All Hero Challenge. Never done that before, so...
I think I'm still on, like, my second hero. It's like Earth Spirit or something, and I just don't play that, and I just haven't felt like doing it.
All right, well, we'll see if maybe we can get you to do that after I finish mine or something, but... I have a long ways to go. I'm what? I think I'm like 14 out of 113 after like a week so far, so it's been pretty fun, though.
Maybe we'll have to do an all-hero challenge party stream at some point. Just all try to grind through it.
Yeah. Or actually, what was it? Suns Fan and Cinderin, we could take their idea, do the, they do like the A through Z, Z through A challenge, where like Suns Fan plays the first hero on the A's, and then Cinderin would play like the first hero on the Z, so he'd play like Zeus. And Suns Fan would play Abaddon, I guess, would be the first one. So, and then they just kind of keep going down the list, playing together or something. I don't know.
Oh,
I thought it was a
boy.
pretty clever idea.
That
So it's good to steal clever ideas.
That one's pretty good. There's also, man, I can't remember the site. There used to be a site you'd go to and push "Give me a challenge," and it would tell you what hero to pick and like restrict what items you could build and stuff. Oh man, that was the worst thing that ever hit pubs. You'd have people skilling stats instead of skills back, and you could do that on heroes that needed the skills. Oh man.
That's a little dangerous because, like you said, like especially if you're doing that in rank, that's almost messed up because, first item, Monkey King bar or something like that on Zeus, and you're like, well, I got to do it. Sorry, guys, let me farm mid.
Would be interesting. Anyway.
Yeah, we're getting sidetracked here. All good though. It's our show. We can do what the fuck we want.
Productive podcast.
Back to DreamLeague though. So DreamHack, aka DreamLeague, as far as Dota 2 is concerned. So they made this announcement. It was even yesterday as we're recording this. Basically, an announcement came out from DreamLeague that they were talking about their major here, this $1 million major. They're the first event to actually really give out information on. And they did it. And I mean, I even retweeted it. I was like, oh, I'm excited to start seeing information. But then I started to notice some drama being made via Reddit, just Twitter in general, like stuff was, and I'm like, wait, what is this about? And I looked a little closer, and I was like, oh,
they didn't follow the rules.
Yeah, so about those rules. So one of the things we did talk about initially was that there's 6 regions, right? Because you got China, Southeast Asia, CIS, Europe, NA, and South America. You're supposed to have qualifiers for all those regions, and they had NA and SA combined and CIS and Europe combined.
And technically, they were in a gray spot in the rules. They had qualifiers involving every region, but it is more specific than that. You have to have one team from every region make it to the final. That's the letter of the word they were breaking. That is now mostly resolved. The way they're doing EU and CIS is a little strange, but yeah, let's go through the format here real quick. So it's going to be DreamHack winner, an 8-team LAN final in Sweden, basically home of DreamHack, and it's going to be 1 team from China, 1 team from Southeast Asia, 1 from South America, 1 from NA, and then 4 combined from EU and CIS. With the caveat that if all 4 of those teams are from one region, the 4th place team doesn't get the slot. It's going to go to the other region, EU or CIS.
Mm-hmm. Wait, real? Okay.
Yes, that is how they're getting around the rules. So they're inviting 4 EU and 4 CIS teams to play their own big qualifier. Half those teams will qualify, so 4 of the 8. If all 4 are from EU or all 4 are from CIS, whoever got 4th just loses to whatever team from the other region is top dog.
Okay, interesting.
Because they can't bring all the teams from one region, or they're not bringing one of the regions there.
They're not following the rules, yeah.
Correct.
So what did the initial rules say in the sense that, like, if you just invited one team from each region, like, if they just invited a South American team, would they have to actually run a qualifier for South America?
Yes, the rules state there have to be a qualifier slot going to the LAN, or going to the finals. They didn't specify LAN, but... Yeah. Well, they did specify LAN, just not arena. But anyway, yes, you have to have a qualifier that will bring a team from every region. Mm-hmm. They don't say it has to be an open qualifier. But
see, well, this has kind of brought up now an interesting reactions and a discussion to come from it is that we don't know, like, when the announcement first came out, again, we made a point of this. It was very broad. Like, it was cool to see a direction being made. But we are already seeing, as you're pointing out here with the DreamLeague announcement, that there's ways to kind of work around the wording. And
well, what did I say one of my biggest fears were? I spent 20 minutes going into how I was nervous that, like, Mars TV would bring 8 Chinese teams. And DreamHack is bringing 4 Euros. Well, Euro to CIS. They're stacking the European side. Whether that's good for the game, bad for the game, I mean, we'll have to see, because every region now has a precedent set. They've been very clear. We're a European-based group. We're going to bring more Euros. So now there's definitely going to be some precedent for other regions to say, okay, well, it's our major this time. We're going to bring 4 from our region.
See, me personally, my initial reaction to that idea that, are they doing something shady, or is this should this be, a lot? Like, for me, it's it's still them putting on the event. This whole announcement from Valve was that they were going to support these third-party tournaments more, kind of have them tied in with their system. Whereas the third parties, though, in this case DreamHack here with DreamLeague, they still are they're going through all these efforts and everything to put on the event themselves. So if they want to have it mainly a European-focused event, in my opinion, they have every right to do that. Because the baseline that Valve set, it was just that in a sense. It was a baseline to ultimately find this, these big teams for their big event. But it would never made the point, because if they wanted to just take over and do their own thing, of course they could do that. But that's not what's going on here. I think that's what's almost confusing some people, is that they're like, oh, I thought Valve was maybe going to be in charge of all this now. Well, no. I mean, the third-party tournaments still have their choices.
Yeah, so I did spend a lot of TI running around and talking to Bruno and a bunch of the tournament organizers and things like that. There was a meeting after TI with just general guidelines that have not yet been leaked. I imagine some tournament organizer might get frustrated and eventually post it. We'll see. Basically, Valve has a hand in this. They have to approve it, but they are giving a ton of discretion to the organizers. If it's not blatantly corrupt, like you're only inviting 2 tier 3 teams to the closed qualifier from a certain region, they seem to be letting stuff go. I'm actually okay with that direction as well. And I guess the check and balance to that is next year at the major cycle, when everybody's asked to submit a major, maybe DreamLeague wouldn't get one, if they had the bad tournament of the year. So it's not like it's totally unfounded. It's not like it's going to go rampant and have a bunch of corruption in it. There are some checks there. Valve is looking at it before they approve it.
As exciting as it was to hear the announcement in the first place, and then even with the whole schedule getting leaked, I think we are kind of now seeing more of, maybe it wasn't as, perfect almost as some people may have had in their minds. We don't even know the point system yet. I think that's the biggest thing, is that we have no clue what the points are going to look like which teams, how many gets, each points for whatever plays for these regions. So this year, but to be fair, I think that's not on Valve's fault. I think it is more of they're just going to have to try something and see how it works. There's no obvious answer here with these point systems or how it's all going to play out.
Well, where I'm super curious is it's only an 8-team major. That's gotten some criticism. That's gotten some praise. All in all, it's a 3-day LAN event. It's part of DreamHack. It is not its own event. So this is what they said they could fit in. And this is what they want to do. And that's their choice. But the lack of transparency, coupled with only being 8 teams and no direct invites, we really need to see that point system, because they said points from earlier majors are going to value less than points from later majors towards TI. We need to know how much less, because the EGs, the VPs, the liquids of the world that aren't getting a direct invite to this, if these points are only going to be worth 5 to 10% of the last major pre-TI, maybe they don't even want to play this. That these kind of teams don't really like going through qualifiers.
Exactly.
It's extra work. It's a lot of games. It's having to basically scrim publicly and win those. I really wish they'd be a little more transparent, because if this is how a lot of the majors are going to be, where they're not going to do direct invites, and I think this is going to be a rarity. I don't think this will be the norm. But if it does become the norm, a lot of these T1 teams, if the point values early on aren't going to matter, are probably going to sit these out.
Yeah. And I think that's important, what you said at the end there, too. This is the first one that's come out with this information. But for all we know, all these other organizations, they have completely different plans as far as how they're going to be structured in their events. DreamLeague has notoriously always had a smaller main event, to be fair, so that kind of goes back to the 8 teams being part of DreamHack itself. It is $1 million prize pool, which is the biggest it's ever been by far, I want to say. So, of course, that's part of this major system coming into play. So, ultimately, again, I am excited for it, no doubt. The fact that it starts September, I don't know exact date. I don't think it says it yet.
No, this starts in December. This is not ESL 1 Hamburg. That's the first major.
Well, I'm looking at the graphic right here. It says starts September 2017.
I believe that's going to be the open qualifiers.
Oh, well, yeah. So, okay, so sure. The main event doesn't happen in September, so I didn't mean that. But no, at least we kind of get it going.
We will. And I'm really curious, if they're going to start running qualifiers this far in advance, what's going to happen? Like, ESL 1 Hamburg's another major taking place in mid-October. Like, that's where I'm going to get nervous here. They're going to either have to take a couple weeks off for this, work very closely with ESL. I know they worked out all the scheduling beforehand. This is supposed to be something that shouldn't conflict. We just have a lot of tournaments and a lot of qualifiers.
Again, it's going to be a chaotic year, which is good and bad. It's good in the sense of a spectator, especially, and even as a player, you just have so many choices, you could say. But yeah, it's going to be bad because there will be a lot of overlapping, and maybe there will be some issues that arise because of that. That would not be surprising to me.
I think my biggest concern with a format like this, with an open qualifier that starts months before the actual tournament, what about the teams that are on the fringe of the major? The 12th to 16th place teams that probably won't make this major, but they want to compete and try. They're probably not going to get to play the minor. Like the minor that's going to take place around these qualifiers is going to make the schedule so tight for them. And maybe my goal of, T2 teams are going to play minors, T1 teams playing majors, that could seriously happen. Because if DreamLeague doesn't pay out these qualifiers and pay some money out to teams playing there, it's going to be real hard if you're like a Complexity or a Vega Squadron, or even, Empire made a good run at TI, but we'll have to see if they can keep it going. But like an Empire, do you even play the qualifier for this, or do you go play the minor where you have a much better shot at making money?
Yeah. It's going to be up to the teams to choose, and sure, they're going to have to wait for more information, perhaps, but maybe that information won't come out in time, and they'll just have to choose without really knowing. That could be part of it too, but...
That's going to be the big thing. Huge props to DreamLeague for getting this all out there right now. Yeah. I got to say, they've handled it really well. When they were told about what was going on with EU and CIS and how they were kind of skirting rules, they fixed it, made a big public statement. They've done very well at communicating with the public, versus ESL's tournaments, as of today, 2 months away, almost to the day.
Yeah.
And we know nothing.
Nothing at all. Yeah, people are tearing into DreamLeague, and I'm just like, come on, guys. Like, this is just not fair. Clearly, they made the adjustments, and, yes, they're the first one to do so. We got the information. That's what matters. I will say one last thing, too, is that it feels a little bit... DreamLeague always has kind of been known as this again, the meme league Rebel is the big thing, and yeah, the Rebel, sure, that's a good word for it. Especially with the format of the group stages, right, where they did the money for the individual matches won during the group stages. I'm guessing, unless I'm missing something in here, I don't think that's going to be happening this time around. It is just straight up for the main event. So,
yeah, well, that's how it's looking. And note, it is not called DreamHack 2017. It is DreamLeague. So that, in theory, means no C9 member is allowed to play.
You know what? That's actually a really good point. Well, first off, it's no longer C9 again. They're back.
Well, yeah,
NP kinda now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yes,
well,
that is
definitely not. That's fairly not confirmed yet, but it is more than likely not going to maintain a team. So I'm curious to know how DreamHack is going to handle that. Are they going to say nobody that played on NP can play? Are they going to say the captain if 3 of the 5 stay together? Because this matters a lot in teams going forward. This has to be a thought for the early roster shuffles. And I'm hoping Helen, their managers, reaching out to DreamLeague and saying, what does this mean for us? If we have 1 of the 5 players, if we're this organization name, can we not play it? That's the stuff they have to figure out, and can definitely determine where some of those players might be playing.
That is a really good point. Knowing DreamLeague, I wouldn't be surprised if they just say, you know what, with this roster shuffling going on, everything, we're just going to dismiss it, and if they want to play, cool. But at the same time, there is a part of me that wants to see something be upheld there, because they had every right to ban them in the first place with how things played out. So.
I think unless NP stays as an org with 3 of the 5 players, DreamLeague will probably let them in.
Yeah.
If it's a fragment of what it once was, they'll probably say, all right, fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely have to see going forward. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. Oh, ESL did give 1 piece of info. They told us where it is. It's going to be in Hamburg, Germany.
Okay, yeah, as you kept saying there, yeah.
Yep, that's the only piece that we do know, though, I believe.
Okay. So
and it's at the Barclay, which is a super cool arena.
Is that
Barclay card?
Did they do a Dota event there before?
I don't know if they did a Dota event, but there's a lot of CSGO majors. Yeah, there's a lot of CSGO stuff there, though. And it's a really sweet arena.
Cool.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Going forward, this major minor system is going to just be chaotic. And I'm hoping more people do the DreamLeague thing, post it 4 or 5 months in advance, say, here's our plans, and then adapt. Because if they come out with a rigid thing and it conflicts with something else, we may see one of these majors just flop.
Yeah.
Like if somebody has an 8-team major with like a 64-team qualifier or something, I could just see them having not 64 teams in the qualifier. Like, well, we'll have to see. But DreamHack is going to get 2 shots. They're back-to-back majors.
Yeah, that's right. This is their winter portion, and I'm sure summer is going to be the next one.
No, they're back-to-back. They're a month away. It's December and then January.
Wait, okay, hold on, because I think I remember talking with Milton about that, and he did say that was an error. Milton's the organizer of DreamHack. Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you that. Yeah, because I was talking with Milton earlier in the week, and I believe he mentioned it because I brought that up. I was like, damn, that's going to be bad. He's like, no, that was an error. That was actually another organization. They just they put our name there instead or something like that. So
because Liquipedia still has it that way. That's interesting.
But I think that's because of the leak. Yeah, I don't know if that would be because of they don't really know. So again, don't quote me on that because I'm trying to really think back now. But I do remember having that conversation and that coming up. So
sure,
because that would be crazy, right? Like within a month. Like,
well, I talked to some of the smaller tournaments about them trying to get minors, and they basically said about a day after they opened it up at Valve to sign up for these, pretty much every slot was full. They were trying to slot in within weeks, so maybe DreamLeague just said, we'll take anything in these 4 time slots, and they gave them 2 a month apart. Yeah. I don't know. We'll definitely check up on that. We'll try to know for next week and let you guys know.
All right, so
because we got connections, Breaky.
Got the connections. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
If that is true, that reduces the number of people with 2 a lot. Then it's just ESL and PGL. Which ESL, I think, has 3.
Yeah, I think, again, more now I'm thinking more about it. I think that was an error, and he made the point that they were still trying to get another one, but they don't know if they're going to be able to, kind of deal. So
yeah, we'll have to see. Definitely something to look at going forward. But yeah, I mean, let's talk personal thoughts here. I've been very professional about my general take on DreamLeague. What do you think of an 8-team major? Does it bother you? Do you like it?
I don't. Because we have 11 majors right now in that league schedule to come. That's I think the biggest thing that I have to remind myself as well as other people. This is not the majors of these last 2 years, guys. This is a different system now. So you can't be like, well, we had 16 teams in past major. This is not the same. It's obviously a lesser prize pool, and because of the consistency of them, that's why I lean towards an 8-team major being fine ultimately in the end. I think it's going to get for more, great Dota ultimately at the main event itself. And yeah, I mean, I personally don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I'm basically the same way. For majors, I actually kind of like 8 teams more, as long as it's still double a limb. I don't like single a limb. 8-team Swiss, you end up playing each other and it gets kind of wonky. I would like 1 or 2 16-team majors where they do some longer Swiss format and it knocks out half the teams or something. But for these kind of majors, just a double limb bracket, I want the majors to just be the best of the best. I'm going to be blunt here. I don't want the Fnatics, the C9s, the lower end teams in the majors anymore. I think we need 1 or 2 of them, and those are your dark horses, right?
Yeah.
Because when we did our TI pre-show, I couldn't tell you what 8 of those teams were going to do. I just had no idea. And that's what the minors are for. That's for them to come in as a strong contender. And these majors are supposed to be your EGs, your VPs, your OGs, your liquids, battling it out for top dog for the month. And yeah, all in all, I hope we see a few more 8-team majors. I really do like that format.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to set a nice precedent, perhaps moving forward too, and because of, again, teams maybe even having to choose between multiple events. If you have 16, it could start to really get down there as far as them reaching for teams to get into the event. So, yeah, 8 teams.
Oh, is the second DreamHack major? Sorry to cut you off here. Is that GSEC, the old StarCraft organization one? I don't see them on the list anymore. I wonder if that was supposed to be theirs.
Perhaps. I don't know. So yeah, I can't say for sure who it was instead.
I was just excited to see what they'd do because all they ran was a StarCraft league back in StarCraft's heyday. I don't remember them ever putting on a major event, but looks like BTS has a partner now for theirs, NGE.
Mm-hmm. Wait, where are you seeing this?
I'm on the Wikipedia page.
It's just on the Wikipedia page. Okay.
Yeah, there's a
The tournaments.
Major Championships 2017 page. I'll send it to you quick.
Yeah, I actually didn't know this. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That would be
I got
nice
bored
to
and started
have.
wandering on Wikipedia today.
Look at that. All right, yeah, no, I see it here now. Cool. All right, this helps a little bit then.
Yeah, and honestly, like, ESL's got it. Like, honestly, the longer we go without any straight info from ESL, the more I think we might not see an open qualifier from them.
Just straight up closed and invite, yeah.
Just 8-team qualifiers for each region, or 4-team even. Go, you know? Because they're the ones right after TI, so you have the best idea of where players are sitting, but you also have to deal with the roster shuffle. Yeah.
I think that's where you make the argument it would be best to have open qualifiers. Like later on in the year, doing that I think makes more sense because, yeah, you got more established teams and you kind of know what the good teams are going to be competing.
This is where ESL had a chance. A chance to do something would have been great for the scene, which was to say, if you keep your team name and you kept 3 of your players and you played TI, you're invited. and actually given some influence to basically take a page out of CSGO with their Legends system, where they'd basically take any top 8 that kept their org and 3 of the 5 players and direct invite them. Yeah. I think that would have been awesome. I don't think it would have changed too many teams, but I think, like, we'll have to see as everything goes forward, but, like, VP could definitely see you've kept their whole roster. Liquid, maybe some of the Chinese teams. And we could have had 4 or 5 direct invites straight off TI, see if they can hold on through what I'm hoping is going to be a major patch soon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's... Ooh, I know, I'm not the only one fiending that. There's many out there. Many out there.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I think that actually does transition nicely.
It does.
We do have a patch that came out this last week, and, you know, it came out, we had an update, and we saw patch 7.06F, and it's like, oh, is this it? I mean, there's some changes.
There would have been a pre-post if it was a real patch. Yeah. This is just like, I'm going to call this the pub health patch, right? They took what they thought was causing problems and blatantly overtuned and said, all right, we can just tweak a few numbers for now and then go back to work. And then they're putting their heads down. This will probably be the last thing we see till the next major patch. They just kind of analyze the TI data. Yep, this won games, this didn't. Knock stuff down, move stuff up.
Yeah, and like you call it what you did, I call it the reacting to TI7 patch because,
sure.
You know, making those changes for the sake of the public games being like Lich, for example. We saw a lot of Lich out of nowhere. Let's go ahead and maybe slightly nerf the hero since people are going to be playing him now over the top. So, yeah, I guess there's not really much to do with this patch. With that said, because we probably are going to have another patch coming out that's going to be much bigger than this.
The issue is it has to be in the next month.
Yeah.
If, like, players need time. If they're going to do even closed qualifiers to get your visas and everything established, you have to give 4 weeks or more, which means we better be seeing qualifiers in the next, like, 2 weeks. And if you do the qualifiers before a major patch, then you have a patch. A team that was great in the qualifiers may be awful on the new patch. We saw it with Alliance. We saw it with Navi. We've seen it all through the past. Like, patches have just ruined teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll have a patch tomorrow. We're recording this Thursday night here, so by the time you guys listen to the podcast, maybe a patch will be out.
If I had to take an educated guess, I'd say a week from Tuesday.
A week from Tuesday, okay.
That's my official on the books guess. Tuesday's usually patch day.
Is it for them? Okay.
Yeah. Well, Tuesday's Steam update day, right?
That's for Blizzard, I know, does that. With with World of Warcraft and stuff. So I honestly don't know if Steam does the same. They might. They very likely might there, but yeah. Again, just got to glance in through these changes. So, like we said, there's really nothing like the Lich that they mentioned, Winter Wyvern. We saw a fair amount of that. Hero Sven obviously got nerfed quite a bit, but
yeah,
we're all looking forward to that big patch though.
Yeah, it's interesting the nerfs that they go. Like, Bloodseeker got a mana cost increase on Rupture, so basically they're trying to hurt the Russia Radiance type builds and help the Force Staff and Blade Mail type builds that get a little bit of int. Just a lot of minor little tweaks here. I mean, was there anything that really caught your eye?
Well, that's what I was kind of getting at. Not necessarily. It's just more so seeing some heroes and being like, Oh, yes, they got nerfed because we saw a bit of them at TI7. Nature's Prophet, another one. As I'm really glancing through right here, and base movements be reduced by 5. Like Sprout Flying Vision reduced from 750 to 500. So, I mean, we're not talking about ruining the hero.
4-roll Earthshaker took a big hit because his Fissure got an extra 3-second cooldown at level 1. Everyone left Fissure at level 1 pretty much till last. Enchant Totem got a pretty decent mana cost increase at level 1. 4-roll Earthshaker often left that at 1 till Aftershock was maxed. Offlaners would sometimes max Enchant first, but yeah, 4-roll Position Shaker definitely got hit pretty hard.
Yeah, that's true.
Diffusal Blade's no longer like the best gold cost per Agi, where if you're just trying to get an insane damage item, you just go an early Diffusal. So PL with a little bit of a knockdown there, especially. Even Faceless Void.
Yeah, the Juggernaut, Faceless Void, the whole Manta Diffusal stuff.
Oh man, Jug underperforms all tournament and then wins a TI final game, and everyone's like, Jug's good. No, he's still bad, still lost like every other game.
Don't let yourself be fooled. What item I am kind of excited to see kind of make a resurgence, perhaps, is Helm of the Dominator. I really liked seeing that item when it was just big time after 7.0 came out.
But it led to just relentless push strategies. Like, it gave so much HP regen. It was so easy for a 4-roller, even a 1, to get by like 5 minutes. And then it's just teams grouped and pushed. I'm all for 5-man meta, but it really takes a lot of the intricacies out of the game.
I just like the idea of using neutral creeps more than just simply getting gold and farming. Because we're not seeing Enchantress.
That's
we're
true.
Definitely not seeing Chen. And Helm of the Dominator is not an item we see at all. So I kind of like the interaction.
Enchant is one of those hairline heroes where a minor buff and Enchantress is broken again. And then it doesn't even need to be a buff to Enchantress. It can be a buff to Jungle XP. It can be a buff to Comeback Gold, Tower Gold. And Enchantress just instantly flies to top tier. And that's a hero they've been kind of scared of playing with, it looks like. I mean, there were a couple patch changes here and there to her, but ever since the jungle neutral change, she's just kind of fallen off. I want to see Enchantress back. Enchantress is fun.
Well, one thing I do want to see in this big update, hopefully, is something we kind of saw throughout this year develop after 7.0 came out. Then there was that big patch that came in kind of mid-season where they started to make talent tree a little more customized for that specific hero rather than just the standard, plus 10 strength, plus 250 life, more customized for that specific hero that upgrades set ability when you get that talent tree side.
And for supports, they've definitely done a great job of that. It's just really hard to do on cores. Like anything with a steroid skill, it's so touchy on the balance. Like Mirana, we saw everyone was taking the 3-arrow talent right away, and then someone said, holy hell, 100 attack speed on Leap is disgusting. And then we saw auto attack Mirana just kind of come back with a vengeance a little bit. It wasn't a premium pick, but it looked pretty good in most of the games it was ran.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you there. I'm liking what they're doing where you're kind of getting a good juxtaposition between your talent choices. One's defensive, one's offensive. And I think those type of choices really let you decide what's best for the game versus if one's about a skill and then one is some raw stats.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to figure out efficiently what's better. And that's going to become the standard 100% of the time.
Exactly. I think that's the best way to put it, that you want to be able to have that decision every game rather than just simply the one standard tree that everyone goes. So
I would like to see them doing a few more changes at 25 where it almost changes the use of a skill. That's very hard to fathom in what that could entail, but it could be something like Lion's Hex applies break. Like things like that actually change the way you use it would be insanely cool. Like, it used to be that Hex would get rid of any hero passives, get rid of anything on you, really. I mean, it was totally different from the Hex we see today. And I think stuff like that got nerfed in the past could be cool to bring back as a level 25.
Yeah. Well, what was I going to do here? Oh, yeah, what were the heroes that we did not see? I was double-checking here. Bane, Alliance, Spectre, Tiny, and Wraith King. We did not see those at the main event at all. Group stage.
Bane got a little quality of life.
Bane got slightly changed, you're right. You mentioned Lion there. That could be a fun change. some additions like
Lion's
that.
Change is actually pretty cool. Most people were taking Hex on Lion at level 1 because it's such a long duration. But with stun going up to 1.4, that's a more reasonable stun timing. And if you think you can catch 2 people, it's a much shorter cooldown. The stun's now longer. I don't know if it's enough, but it's a start. Maybe if they moved his level 20 talent to his level 15, swapped him around, and then made the finger death like 200 damage or 150 instead of 300 at 20, maybe could see some play. It's too hard to get a support to 20, man. It's way too hard.
I was also confirming that all 5 of those heroes did actually get tweaks in this patch.
All right, let's see. What else was it? Spectre got a Haunt Illusion change. Doesn't really affect the Spectre build where everyone was just going like Heart, Abyssal, Radiance type stuff. That doesn't do any illusion damage. Pretty good buff to ones that go Diffusal Manta, though.
Yeah.
That's a lot of extra damage being pumped out. But Diffusal got nerfed. Feels bad.
Tiny got buffed,
Tiny?
though.
Support Tiny got buffed. 4 Tiny. pretty nice buffs. The weird part with this, though, is... statistically, it's better to max toss first. It does more damage than Avalanche if you combo. It's just all around better to max first. And that's the mana cost they reduced. If they reduced Avalanche, maybe Tiny would actually see play. I actually think he could. But maybe we'll see some more shenanigans, chucking creeps to neutrals. I know they tried to fix a lot of that, but I think there's still 2 spots you can do it.
I think he's one of those heroes that you could still,
yeah,
use that.
He's fun. I like seeing Tiny in games. And I just really like cores that go from a ganker to a hard carry. Like Lena's a great example. 1 to like 12, 15, she can nuke someone down with the full combo. After that, then she's starting to go like Shadow Blade and Deso and Crit and fun things like that. I love that style of hero, and Tiny fits very well into that. You go Blink first, get an Ags, and get some carry items. They're fun to me. They just make Dota more enjoyable. And from a casting standpoint and as a viewer, it's very easy to see that transition.
Yeah.
Like, he's ganking, he's killing, now he's a carry.
Yep.
But, yeah, that's where I like Tiny a lot.
Yeah, so we'll see
him back.
if those heroes do get touched up even more, again, with this patch that we're all expecting here.
Yeah.
So.
What was the last one?
Wraith King, yeah, he did have a couple there at the end, too. The reincarnation cooldown. Reduced.
Yeah, what is the alternate one for his talent? Level 15 instead of move speed. Oh, it was Wraith Fire Blast DPS. Yeah, that talent was garbage. So that will help. Wraith King's biggest issue is sticking to targets.
Oh, yeah.
He does a filthy amount of auto attack damage if he builds for it and can stay on someone, but he never can. So then you end up with builds like Blade Mail, Radiance, Blink, Ags or something. And it's not about the auto attacks then, it's about just waddling into a fight, dying, and doing something productive with a bunch of auras. So with 30 move speed, maybe it'll be enough to stick, especially with the changes we've seen to S and Y. Like, S and Y has just gotten minor buff after minor buff. The meme's gotten better and better. Maybe.
Yeah. There is a chance there. I know PPD is that's his go-to carry whenever he plays carry. I'm watching him stream a little bit these last couple of days.
It's fun. It's just really... Wraith King's one of those we've been expecting a rework on forever. The only hero in the game, I think, left with 3 passives. There were a few others at one point. Drow used to only have 3 passives.
God, that's a good point.
Yeah, the most boring hero by skill set left in Dota. So
3 passives.
I know a lot of people have been waiting for a rework there. Technically, Mortal Strike's toggleable now. Or not Mortal Strike, Vampiric Aura. You can turn it on and off for creeps.
There you go.
But I'm not really calling that active. That's a lie. But all in all, I mean, it's more so going forward. We got a lot of stuff coming up. This patch is only the start. We're going to get 2 new heroes, which is going to totally destroy the meta. They never give an announcement on when those are coming, whether that's going to be next patch or... Like, we don't have a break. Like, last time it was... I think it was after the next major was when they came out.
Well, I would rather them come out at the beginning of the season, right, than halfway through at this point.
New heroes do so much to balance, though. They synergize with other heroes. They play off each other.
If we're talking about tournament play, though, obviously they're not allowed in captain's mode, so... That I'm not.
Yeah, that part is true. Yeah, I forgot because what was it? When Underlord came in, he went into captain's mode like super fast. I think it was like a month or two. I don't know. A few heroes they've moved in extremely quickly.
That is dangerous, yeah. No, I'm sure they're going to be.
I was looking at talent. Yeah, I would assume so. Brand new heroes too. Like Underlord was the last one from Dota 1. So now we've got all new, all heroes. I'm really curious about our new Armadillo. He looks fun.
An agi,
especially
carry.
If
that's what I'm going for.
I guarantee some viewers are going to hate me for this. If it works like Fiora's Riposte in League of Legends, where you straight counter an ability and it negates it and then does damage back, I'm super excited.
Oh, why'd you go with that comparison over Nomad from Han?
Nomads didn't block stuns though, right?
Oh, it absolutely
You'd still get
did.
stunned if you got hit.
Yeah, it literally reflects it basically, or negates it.
I played League 4 months ago. I haven't played Han in 3 years.
Anyways, your point, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, no, that looked like a counterattack type ability, and if that is what it is, super excited to what that has. I will say the other one looked a lot like Nymphora.
That was my reaction. The evil Nymphora is what I had.
If that's a support with a bunch of wave clear, we might have Coddle 2.0 on our hands.
I can't see it being like anything similar to Nymphora though, because there's Nymphora's abilities are already kind of in Dota for quite a bit. So,
yeah, we're gonna have to see because there's rumors that it's 2 separate controllable heroes, right? That the Wisp and the Lantern is actually its own hero unit. There's rumors it's going to work like Pix from Lulu and League, where you attach it to somebody and it enhances them. There's all sorts of rumors flying around, and that's what I'm very, very much looking forward to.
Yeah.
I don't want to dig too much into theory crafting on it because I have a feeling that the Theory Craft Thursday guys might do something there.
Well, so do we agree on then the Armadillo guy is going to be agility ganker / carry, and then Nymphora, but the what is it, a pixie or whatever, fairy?
Yeah,
it's going to be an intelligence.
What is the actual name? They released it.
All right,
you keep talking. I'll find them here for you.
Yeah, I believe it's going to be an intelligence support,
Sliff,
and an agility ganker / carry. Sliff.
Yep.
We'll see. I mean, they're definitely not strength. That's for sure.
But yeah, the other one, I would have to say we might see our first carry in how long get released. Like we haven't actually seen a carry.
Arc Warden.
Monkey King does not count. Arc Warden is just.
I mean, you're gonna call Arc Warden not a carry?
That's like a mid.
Come on.
That's a mid.
Really?
Like conceptually, it's a nuker. No steroid abilities, really.
I mean,
I don't know.
A second hero, that's kind of steroid.
Yeah, that's fair. Fine. I'll give you that. And in a special segment on the podcast, let's do Zrock's Riptide Rumble. Play.
Let me guess, 500, maybe 750.
750, yeah.
Congratulations. I did get 1,000 once, actually.
Nice.
Nothing more.
Man, I wonder, yeah. Riptide Rumble, what a joy.
Oh, I got my my did you get any treasures? From
predictions?
TI? No, from TI.
Oh, I never had a badge.
That's
Remember,
right.
I just stole other people's badges the whole trip.
You never got one yourself, that's right.
Nope. I used one of the badges from the .p press pass for a while, and then I had a very gracious benefactor give me a sweet pass for a couple days.
Okay.
Yeah, no, never had anything myself.
My chest is still up for sale, so I'm hoping
your best bet now is saving it for about a year.
Think so?
They've never gone for less after a year than they did like 2 days into TI. And after TI, what did it drop? Half? What are they going for now? Like $60?
No, it peaked. So it peaked at basically $200 on 6 days ago.
The last day of the event?
No, 6 days ago.
Okay.
So after TI. And then lately, it's been around 140 or so. And it's been in that range. So I have it up for 140. What do I have it up for now? 148 right now. I might need to.
Somebody go buy Breaky's Trove.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. I'm just saying, if you guys want a Trove and support me, it's up there. It's up there.
I will say, going into Dota this time of night is really, really hard because I almost want to just make a spreadsheet with everyone in private lobbies on my friends list and try to do the math as to who is who and who's playing with what people. Because, I have roughly half of NA Dota on my friends list and a few South Americans. And they all go into private lobbies when they're scrimming. So you could almost break it down and figure out. Maybe I'll do that for next week's show. We'll do a a Xerox spreadsheet edition on where the NA shuffle might be if we don't have more info.
Oh boy, yeah. Hopefully by next week's show we'll actually have that information. I mean, we were kind of talking about it earlier. I was talking with GrandGrant earlier, and it's with these whole quote unquote leaks that came out, it's going to be something. I mean, if any of it's like even remotely true, like it's definitely setting up to be a great NA scene coming up here, especially.
I got one more short thing I want to talk about, but the little tidbit to start spreadsheet Zrock off, I will say Newsham from Leviathan and BSJ, both in private lobbies scrimming right now. So might get to see the return of promo code BSJ.
Where do I know Newsham from?
Newsham was on Leviathan for a long time.
He used to play
I don't know
Han,
if you were around for Leviathan.
Did he not used to play Han? Maybe he didn't. Maybe I'm
did
making
he?
that up.
I think most of the Leviathan players did. Now you gotta look. But yeah, he played for Team Red for a little while. With Ziz and Monkey Forever and Franz and them. But yeah, before that, pretty much been on Leviathan since like 2014. He was just, I don't know. He was an example of one of those teams that made money. Their organization was profitable, but they never won anything. Ever. I think his biggest cash was like World Cyber Arena for $8,000 or something. But they were still a good enough team that they had good streamers. They made decent cash. They stayed together. It was good.
All right.
But
we'll see.
The last thing I want to talk about real quick, I don't know how much you're going to get into it with Grant, the new in-house league.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a good point. I saw Peter Pandan posting something about that, and that's exciting because I think that's the direction that, especially with the matchmaking issues that we've been having these like last week or so, like the players have been talking about. Again, I don't have those issues. I'm just a 3K scrub, but I guess when you're at those higher levels, they're having a lot of matchmaking issues recently. Just in general, though, playing with certain players and a lot of raging going on. So they're trying to bring back an in-house league, which is great. I know you come from that background too.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on a very long rant. I'll condense it as much as I can here, but the biggest thing for it right now, if you want to get a new player and you're a team with 4 guys and you need a 5th and you don't want any of the leftovers floating around, the only way to do that is talking to your team. Who'd you like in pubs? Who was good? That's such a bad indicator when, for the majority of games, even if they're 6K average, there's like 1 or 2 low 5Ks, a couple high 7s, you're trying to carry people. It's not a competitive environment. An in-house league is the perfect bridge between pubs and the pro scene, if it's done right. And it's how we got Arteezy. Arteezy was literally came out of in-house leagues. It's how we got Sumail. It's how we got, Merlini kind of started them with us, but it was where he came from. A lot of these NA Dota guys, they all came from these in-house leagues.
Yeah.
And they're so important to the scene. And the issue we ended up having was, at some point, a few players that I'm not going to name names decided they wanted prize pools. So you have a bunch of games, and that was back when Coddle Guy would stream these all the time, just degenning out 8 hours a day streaming NAIHL. And at a certain point, those just the prize pool made it so at the start of the month you'd have 150 people playing, and then you get to the end and the guy that was first wouldn't play games because he didn't want to lose his number 1 spot, and the league would just kill itself. Because if you have a week with only 1 game running at a time from 6 to midnight and that's it, people quit coming back. And so it would just die, and you'd try to start it the next month, and maybe for a day you'd have some, and then it just faded out. And Mike even tried going super hard on the prize pool and made FPL. Partnered with Faceit. I think it had a $10,000 prize pool per month. I mean, it was something insane for an in-house league. And same kind of thing. After the first month, it started to fade. By the end of the second month, it died. And the prize pool just totally killed it, and people lost sight of the fact that it was just a way to play good games when you weren't scrimming. So I'm really hoping this time it gets better. It sounds like it's going to be like 7K plus or more only, and then invite through a vouch squad for ex-pros and known players. If they keep it to that, and it's... Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you'd hope that they kind of remind themselves, too, of like, what's the other option, and it's this apparently miserable experience in current matchmaking, so... You're better off just making it happen, make it work.
One of the issues is a lot of the bigger streamers tend to get more viewers when they're playing pubs. They can rage at their pubs a little more. They can have music running louder than they probably can. Because in these in-house leagues at this level, they generally require voice chat. And a lot of the pros just chill when they play pubs. They don't really try. Like, they don't want to have to be communicating and working with the person. And it's almost a decompression from scrims for some of them. So some of them don't really like playing them, but... The games are a lot higher quality. I have very low chance, but I'm trying to get myself in. The last official league was FPL. I got second in it, so I might be the lowest rated player in it. We'll see.
Dang, get a celebrity on our in-house league player.
We'll
podcast. I actually did hit up PPD with that said, and he did make the point, and I'm sure others out there too are going to be casting it. So plan to do a little bit of that even. So
that's a huge boon in keeping it alive too. If you have viewers, if you're getting fans out of it, and it's giving you secondary attention to your own stream, it can be a benefit. Like it's hard to quantify this, but you have to think about how these pro players are monetizing. When they're not winning prizes, most of these guys aren't making a big salary, if any salary. Obviously EG is, but even like the DCs of the world aren't probably making a livable income off their salary. So how they monetize their own stuff through streaming and promo code BSJ type stuff, that actually matters to them. That is a big part of their life. So they need to be seeing some sort of value from these in-house leagues other than the Dota aspect, or I think it's going to die again real quick. But casting's propped them up for a while. I'm hoping we see some new up-and-coming talent. For we talked when the majors and minors came in, we have to have more than 2 studios.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's going to happen. And I know Join Dota has plans of starting to do some stuff again, but I have a feeling we're going to need 4, 5, 6 studios to be able to cover everything. So maybe we'll see some new up-and-coming talent come out of them. I mean, I'm sure, like, Grant and maybe you and I will cast some games on there when we're bored.
Yeah.
But
it'll be one of those
we'll
things
see how it goes.
Fun to do just for content, if anything, and give people some entertainment there to watch. So.
And they can be a little more relaxed than a tourney stream. No one's paying you. You can, you can let a couple swear words slip out. You can have a little more fun with it.
Of course. But all right, no, that's I'm glad we got to talk about that though. And again, that's another thing that hopefully I think that's competitive enough to the point where we're going to have updates on that in future shows as well. Just to touch on it, if anything, but I think we covered what we wanted to today, though. Overall, so
that we did. A little bit dry today, just not a lot coming on. I mean, in reality, the DreamLeague stuff was the biggest stuff. I'm hoping next week we'll have confirmation on whether DreamLeague's got 2 majors. Hopefully we'll know more about ESL, and maybe our rosters will be a little more stable. So as we draw closer, content will get a little more focused, structured.
There are a couple of events going on, these online events, like the Pro Dota Cups, the D2CL, the Dota 2 Champions
casted
League.
D2CL. That's fun.
Right, yeah. You casted
Yep. We did day 1 while the Moonduck guys were busy, so Moxie and I did that, and man, clowny and rough, pretty much the only 2 words I have for it. You can tell the pros are just waiting for patch day, just playing with different heroes. My general thought on it was they were trying out heroes that really weren't getting picked at TI just because they know they're not going to get nerfed. Like, they're only going to go up and get buffed. So if you can make them work in a bad state, they're going to be nuts coming forward. But we had some really clowny stuff.
Yeah. I will say shout out to Team Tuho from that. They are in the finals of the Dota 2 Champions League. That's my former Han boys there, and Sandy and Mickey, who, again, I've been stressing this for a while now. These are the 2 next breed of Han players to have
I was so biased when I casted their game.
Yeah.
It was not even fair.
That
they were playing fair. Penta with Boogie and Blazemon in them. And so they were playing a good team. And, Penta ran, some support Zeus offlane Brewmaster. I don't know. It was weird. It was just bad. But yeah, interesting stuff.
To keep an eye on them. But again, so there are a couple of these online events going on. So if you really are fiending quote unquote competitive Dota 2, it is there. But again, we still have a little bit before the big time events start taking place here, specifically with the open qualifiers.
Oh, D2CL. I'm not going to badmouth the parent organization running this, but they don't even have their times up for their last 2 matches. Like, they're in the last semifinal and then the finals, and there's not even a date on Liquipedia for them.
I wonder if they're starting to figure it out. That might be why.
Maybe.
Yeah,
but
might have had to reschedule or something.
Those type of tournaments, I said they're fun. I like the tier 2, $5,000 prize pool done in a week things. They're just a fun way to see up and coming teams and some new strategies.
Hey, it helped me this last year for sure, and I plan to, I'm sure, cast more throughout this year.
Yeah, they're great.
So they are fun to watch, honestly. So All right, anyways, let's wrap up here. We are
let's go
rambling
home.
on at this point. So once again, want to thank you guys for tuning in to the DotPro show. Myself, joined by Zrock as always. Thanks again to GrandGrant for joining us earlier as well, talking about the whole roster shuffles to come. Again, a lot of speculations out there. It's going to be really interesting to see how it all unfolds. I'm sure by next week's show, we'll have even more to talk about on that. And then moving forward with competitive Dota 2 coming back post TI 7 onward to the TI 8 season ahead of us. So thanks again for tuning in. We will see you guys next week here on the DotPro show.